Okay,
And
I see on my clock, it's 7 o'clock straight up, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I'm going to welcome everybody to the meeting, Cindy and Philip and everybody who is on. Warren, I believe I've seen you. You need to, can you undo your microphone for a minute, Warren?
Yeah,
You've
hello.
been on our meetings before, right?
I have.
Okay, and somebody else is, so do you obviously must live in Oak Run, I suppose.
Right.
Have you been here for quite a while?
I've lived here 20 years.
20 years, that's a long time. I honestly, Warren, because since we've been here and Hal and I are in our 5th year now, I've met so many people and when we were still having the in-person meetings. I don't remember seeing you at an in-person meeting, but did you used to come to the in-person meetings?
No, I
No.
didn't.
Okay. Would you come to the in-person meetings if we ever had them again?
No. You just never know.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna stop grilling you then. Okay, let me just take a minute here with a bit of procedural things. Our secretary, our acting secretary is Amalia Kane Crawford, and she's here with us on the meeting. And she is filling a vacated place and that we needed to get filled for quite a while. And the procedure we're going to do is I need a motion and then a vote. A motion to move to accept Amalia for the interim here until March as our acting secretary. And then I'll need a motion, I'll need a second, and then I'll need a vote.
I so move.
Okay.
there we go. I'll
And a
second.
second. Okay. And I would like to say, everyone who is in favor of approving Amalia Kane Crawford to be our acting secretary until the elections in March, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well, the ayes have it. Amalia, you're in. Rodney, we're very informal here. You have to forgive us a little bit. Okay, let me look. I want to make my
Linda?
normal, yes.
May I interrupt?
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't get the name of who made the motion and who seconded.
Carol Lee
Carly.
Carter.
I did. I made a motion. I said I so move. And I think Gary, you seconded it, right?
I did.
Yes,
Okay.
okay,
Thank you very much.
okay, all right.
And if I may, let me just make a real quick announcement too, Linda, that we are recording this meeting. It'll be posted up on YouTube by tomorrow noonish, probably. We generally leave everybody on the honor system for muting and cutting out the background noise. If it turns into a problem, then I can mute everybody. And I'll announce that whoever was speaking, Rodney, if that's you or Linda or whoever that we've recognized, you will need to unmute yourselves because when I mute everybody, that will include you. Sorry. And that's all I got. So Linda, back to you.
Okay, I wanted to add the usual cautions. Please turn off or mute your phone, your radio, your television. I'm getting ready to turn off my phone right now because I forgot to do it. So I'm turning off my phone. Any other distractive noises that could be in the background because we want to be respectful of our speaker and anyone else who's speaking at the time. And it would be cool if you raised your hand after when it's question and answer time with Mr. Long, raise your hand when you want to speak and then you can be recognized and we can go forward that way.
Madam Chairman, may
Yes.
the parliamentarian ask that the record show that we had a majority of the membership at the meeting and voting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. Jim keeps me on my toes, my procedural toes here. Oh, and let me just say this. All voting members are definitely asked to stay after Mr. Long completes his presentation because we have some other club business to take care of. And I would appreciate it if we could keep everybody here for a few minutes afterwards. Okay, so now, without further ado, and I'm getting a little warm, so if you'll excuse me, I'll take off my sweater. I think this is the warmest room in the house. Okay, get rid of that thing. All right, so I'm going to introduce the Honorable Rodney Long, who is a candidate for the Florida State Senate District 8, which covers part of Marion County, Alachua County, and Putnam counties. He served as the Gainesville Commissioner Mayor from 1991 to 1992. He had 2 terms as Gainesville City Commissioner from 1988 to 1984, and 3 terms as the Alachua County Commissioner from 2000 to 2011. Rodney's career is so long and so impressive that there's absolutely no way I could mention everything, except to say that he's been involved in many civic organizations, and he has a foundation called the Long Foundation, which is so admirable because he works with private individuals and organizations to help reduce poverty, homelessness, hunger, and the unemployment rate and crime here in our area. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Rodney Long. Let's give him a hand, please. Welcome, Rodney.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank all of you, and thank Gary for actually coordinating, and Herman, who I met some time ago and invited me long time ago to one day be able to come and to share with you my vision, not only for this district, but for the state of Florida. And I appreciate Linda cutting kind of short my qualifications and experience for this. And I would ask you, if you have not seen my bio information, that you visit my website, www.rodneylongsenatedistrict8.com, and look at my qualifications, my experience, and my issues and those things, so you'll get to know a little bit more about me. Tonight, I would not be able to tell you all of the qualifications and all the issues that I support. However, I do want to share with you some of the ones that I'm very passionate about. And not only about the issues, I want to share with you what's on the horizon when it comes to redistricting in the state of Florida. And today, the Florida Senate had a vote today to approve their map, which is an interesting map. And I'll show that to you a little later on in my presentation, if you haven't already seen or heard the news. So what I want to try to do is start off by just sharing with you some of the things that I believe in as a
and started screen sharing. Okay.
And he is not a true representative of all the electorate in this district. Keith, over the period of time, has actually become more Trumpian and more to the right in terms of his policies and his views. He doesn't necessarily lead, he follows. And I think in order to be a person who's representative of a group of people, whether it's city or county, you must have innovative ideas, you must be creative, and you must have some type of leadership ability. And I think that the current occupant of this particular seat falls short on all of them. I ran for the House seat in 2020 against Representative Von Henson. Von Henson and I were good friends. We communicate fairly often about issues of importance. She served in Gainesville on the City Commission seat that I served on back in 1988. She was elected to that seat several years later. But we share some of the same ideals and some of the same views. But I want to share with you some of the things that are just extremely important to me. And first of all, I'm a person who believes in education. I am also president and founder of the Martin Luther King Jr. Commission of Florida. And one of our founding principles is education. To date, my organization has given out $325,000 in scholarships to high school seniors to further their education as they matriculate in college. But in the state of Florida, education is not a high priority for our state. And even the Constitution that says that education is paramount in the state doesn't necessarily mean that we fund it. Florida is the third most populous state in the country. It has the fourth largest economy in our country. And in fiscal 1920, it ranked 45th in education funding. We're at the bottom percentile with states like Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and West Virginia. In the fiscal year 2021 budget, Florida's education budget was $22 billion, and that's about $7,600 per student. But as the next state senator, I want to try to increase public funding for schools with the goal for us to try to reach the top 10 percentile over the next decade. Also, I really want to increase teachers' salaries, and I don't mean by giving them a $1,000 bonus like the governor has done for the last couple of years, because that doesn't do much for people's retirement. Also, I want to make sure that we have charter schools that are out there that are accountable and that they're held to the same standards as our public schools. We've lost the battle in the state of Florida whether or not public dollars should go to fund charter schools. That horse left the barn a long time ago. And if the Republicans had their way, they wouldn't fund public education. All they have is private schools. As a person who's been in office, I strongly believe in local home rule authority. And what that basically is government that's closest to the people, best represent the people. That's really what I believe. But the majority party in Tallahassee believes that one size fits all, and it comes from Tallahassee. They also believe that they know what's best for local government. In the last session, they actually approved a couple of bills that were really, I think, targeted toward local government. First, House Bill 1. House Bill 1, as you recall, is the Anti-Rioting Act. And that bill came about after the summer of 2020, when many of our young people around the country took to the streets after the horrific murder of George Floyd. And so Governor DeSantis decided that he wanted to have an anti-rioting act that would be a preemptive act that would control people who were exercising their First Amendment rights. Also, Senate Bill 90. Senate Bill 90, as we know, restricts voting. It eliminates, changed the whole system of voting in the state of Florida. It now requires that the supervisor of elections cannot have polling places, these little drop boxes all around in their jurisdictions. They can only have one, one or two, and they have to be supervised 24/7 if they're drop boxes. And they've made it difficult now, where there was the time that you can pick up your mother, your sister, your brother, and your neighbor's absentee ballot, mail-in ballots, and you can take them to the supervisor of elections office. You can't do that anymore. You cannot possess more than 2 ballots, including one of your own, and turn in. Now, if you do, it's a misdemeanor in the state of Florida. The current majority party opposed citizens' rights to actually amend the Constitution. They have passed laws that make it very, very difficult for our citizens to collect petitions to amend the Constitution. They have failed to implement many of the will of the people acts and changes and amendments. For example, Florida Forever funding, the minimum wage, medical marijuana, Amendment 4, and the Sadowski Trust Fund for affordable housing. All of those particular amendments, the majority party in Tallahassee opposed them, and they changed the will of the people. As the next state representative that's coming out of this area, I'm going to support local home rule authority. And I'm going to oppose any state preemption and any unfunded mandate that restricts local government's ability to govern. Because I am a product of local government, and I understand where the rubber really hits the road, and that's at local government. Also, I believe in equality for all, regardless of race, sex, age, or sexual orientation. I truly believe and strongly support a woman's right to make her own decision regarding her reproductive rights. And I will oppose any legislation that discriminates against any citizen based on race, sex, age, or sexual orientation. In addition, I'm going to oppose any legislation that restricts a woman's reproductive rights. One of the issues that I think that I am most concerned about is how we deal with criminal justice and police reform. House Bill 751 that they passed in the last session, it was a first good start. What it did is it requires people, other officers, a duty to intervene when another officer is doing something wrong during arrest. It also requires officers to provide medical attention to people in their custody. We would think that they were doing that anyway. It limits the use of chokeholds, requires applicants who are applying for jobs from other police departments to disclose if they were under investigation at another agency. Also, it requires outside agencies to conduct deadly force investigations. So to me, you would think that those types of things are automatic. But these are the things that I will propose as the next state senator from this area. One, I would mandate body cameras for all law enforcement agencies in the state of Florida. And I will work with law enforcement agencies and unions to hold officers accountable for excessive use of force and work to eliminate qualified immunity. I want to review the criminal codes to eliminate minimum mandatory sentences. Many of those particular laws were put on the books in the 1980s. They have not been revisited, and minimum mandatory sentences do not work. And it's costing us over 100 and some thousand per inmate, many of those who are in custody on minimum mandatory sentences. And it takes away the discretion of judges to actually provide fair sentencing to people. Also, I want to increase funding for felony reentry programs that would hopefully reduce the pipeline to prison, especially for many of our young offenders. I also oppose privatization of the prison industry. I don't think we should privatize the prison industry to make it a entity where people actually profit from. Also, I'll support the state legislation to eliminate checking the box on job applications. I think we need to have it to where if a person has made a mistake in their lives, they should be able to sit down with an employer and be able to explain to the employer what happened instead of checking the box that I was convicted of an offense 30 years, 40 years ago. And you heard Linda say earlier, I am a strong proponent of poverty reduction. Florida, by the way, have about 3.3 million residents who are food insecure. Florida ranks 10th in the nation in food insecurity and 8th in the nation in child food insecurity. My goal is to work to reduce poverty by supporting local funding for homelessness and food insecurity in the state of Florida. Also, as a licensed real estate broker who owns a firm here and sell real estate, I believe in achieving the American dream of home ownership, but it's a nightmare right now. You would not believe that the house that you purchased in 2020, today, if you purchase that same house, it is $48,000 more in Alachua County, and it's $52,000 more in Marion County. So housing affordability is a real challenge, especially for first-time home buyers. I have many clients who have actually been pre-qualified through their lenders for $225,000 and $245,000 to $50,000 homes, and they're not out there. They're not available. In 1992, the voters passed what's called the Sadowski Affordable Act, with a dedicated funding source from the small tax on real estate transactions. Since 2002, Florida lawmakers, they have diverted what we call swept over $2 million for other different types of purposes. In the last session, Senate Bill 2512 reallocated half of those funds that are dedicated for affordable housing to environmental initiatives, and it prohibits lawmakers from redirecting future housing funds. So in other words, the money that the voters decided that they will pass a constitutional amendment for dedicated funding for housing has now been swept for other different types of programs. As the next state senator, I want to work to repeal this law and to fully fund the Sadowski Trust Fund for homeownership and for rental housing assistance for our local governments and for housing providers. In the area of healthcare, I support Medicaid expansion to the more than 1.5 million Florida residents who are eligible for the coverage. In Florida, most people who don't have healthcare, they use the emergency room as their primary healthcare provider. And that cost is shifted to those of us who have healthcare insurance. So our healthcare premiums go up. Now, I understand it's a real political fight in Tallahassee, and it's been there ever since Rick Scott. And this particular legislation that came out under President Biden early in the year, states now don't have to even provide any upfront matching money for Medicaid expansion. And yet still, the state of Florida has refused to actually address Medicaid expansion for the 1.5 million people who are eligible for it here in the state of Florida. I believe in economic opportunities by supporting distressed areas and communities. All of us have communities that are distressed, but they need to have resources that can make their communities viable. And I also support a livable wage. And thank goodness we do have the minimum wage, but it was tinkered with the legislature, and it actually took away the intent of the voters. I'm an environmentalist, and therefore I support protecting our ground and surface waters through legislation that will increase treatment of discharge to our ground and surface waters from nitrogen fertilizer, from livestock and bio-waste. In Marion and in Alachua County, we have very significant water bodies, and I want to make sure that I do everything as the next representative from this area to protect our ground and surface water. I also believe in science of global warming. Unfortunately, many of the people in Tallahassee, especially in the majority party, don't believe in global warming. I support the Biden administration's commitment to cut greenhouse gas emissions from 50 to 52% below 2005 levels by 2030. I support the goal of reaching the 100% carbon-free power by 2035. Also, I believe in Florida Forever funding. And this is one of those constitutional amendments that the voters voted in that will protect our natural resources, recreational lands, and cultural heritage. Now, let me share with you a little bit about redistricting. As I said to you earlier today, the Senate passed out its version of the state map for the Senate seats in the state of Florida. And I can tell you, it is frightening. And the reason it's frightening is because Marion County and Alachua County got some unusual attention, and I'll show that to you a little bit in the map. But redistricting is where after each decennial census, the legislature redraws the districts from which Florida voters elect their state representatives, their senators, and members of the House of Representatives. It is the redrawing of congressional and state legislative districts to adjust the uneven growth rates in different parts of our state. Now, it's interesting what has happened in Florida. Between 2010 and 2020, the residential population in Florida increased from 18.8 million to 21.5 million. The average number of people in each one of our congressional districts increased from 696,000 to 769,000. The average number of people in each of our 128 state house districts increased from 156,000 to roughly 179,000, almost 180. The number of people in our 40 state Senate districts increased from 470,000 to 538,000. Now get this, since 2010, there was 2.7 million new residents that moved to the state of Florida. That is outrageous growth for the state of Florida. Now here's this new proposed Senate map that I talked to you about. And I hope you can see my pointer there. What you see here in the blue, where my little pointer is District 8. District 8 used to include all of the blue and all of this area that's up here that goes, and this little area, which is Alachua County. If you can see, Alachua County has been split in half in the new proposed map of the map that was approved today. And what that did was Alachua County votes 62% Democratic in every election. Marion County, in the old Senate District 8 map, it ended at Highway 40. It didn't include all of Marion County because Senate District, I think 10, which was Senator Dennis Baxley's district, included from 40 going south to Lake County. This proposed map cuts Alachua County in half, and it actually includes all of Marion County. It eliminates Putnam County, and it shifts to the west, going to Cedar Key to include Levy County. What this district now becomes is a more Republican leaning district than it was before. Previously, Senate District 8 was about a 3 or 4 plus leaning Democratic district. And that's why in 2018, Kaiser Anakin came within 1,948 votes in a 3-person race of winning this Senate seat. Had there not been a third party candidate, she would have won this Senate seat. What this proposed district map does is it now pits Senator Keith Perry and Senator Dennis Baxley in a potential Republican primary for this particular district, because Baxley lives in Dunella. Perry lives within the district in Alachua County. And if this map doesn't change, there's going to be 2 incumbent state senators running against each other in the primary. Now, does that bode well for a Democrat? Not necessarily, but what it does is if we as Democrats can stop suppressing our own votes and having these costly primaries against each other and decide that we're going to do like they do at times, let's just wait to go to a general election. We'll probably have more resources. You can trust me when I tell you, they're going to do everything that they can to retain this seat and any new seat that's favorable to Republicans. Now, in the northern part of Alachua County, which is above this line here, it now includes the district that's currently held by Senator Jennifer Bradley. It includes Marion, it includes Baker County, it includes Gilchrist County, it includes Columbia, Union, Bradford, and Clay County. Now, I don't have to tell any of you that that is a red district by the small counties I just mentioned. So this particular district has become extremely red. And if you notice, it has half of Alachua County in this particular district. So what they have done is they have created, by these maps, they have solidified. If these maps pass and they don't have any constitutional or challenges at the Supreme Court level, they have solidified for the next 10 years 2 guaranteed Republican seats right up in North Central Florida. Whereas Democrats before had a good chance of winning with Senate District 8. So that's kind of like where we are in terms of the districting. And that's kind of like where we are with my vision and my goals for the Senate District. I hope I didn't take too much of your time trying to share with you my views and ideas, as well as where we are with this redistricting process. So, Madam Chair, thank you so very, very much. And I will certainly hang around to answer any questions that any of the members may have.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Is this new map set in stone now? The new districting map?
This map came before the Senate today for vote. It's already out of the Senate Redistricting Committee. It went to the Senate floor today at 3:30. I haven't gone back up to see what the vote, but I can almost assure you it passed.
So it's done.
We're done. Now, the good thing, if you want to call it a good thing, is this map and some maps from the House gonna have to agree, and the governor is gonna have to approve. And then after that, there's gonna be a whole lot of legal challenges. I'm currently in conversations with all line one, I think that's what they're called, because I am a potential now litigant, because I have standing, because I got in the race early enough. And if the boundaries had been done, if the recommendations from Fair Districts Florida had been actually put in place by Senator Rodriguez, who's the chair of the Senate committee, instead of having a clean slate, which he gave the staff a clean slate, draw the map however you want to, using the Fair Districts Florida ruling from 2012, and also the Voting Rights Act provision 2 and 3, to make sure you do it to where it's not constitutionally challenged. I could have actually won if they had moved further south the boundary line, leave the maps, start from the maps you have. And District 8 was only 22,000 people short of achieving the admirable goal. We could achieve that by going further south into Marion County and still not include all of Marion County.
Right.
And actually accomplish 22,000 more residents. And I'm not necessarily saying voters, we're talking about just residents.
So are you saying that if the Senate's map and the the House's map don't match, they have to match?
Well, they're gonna have to do some negotiating.
Okay, and so because of that and because of any legal action taken, we still have a small chance of revising this?
Yes, we do. There is some small hope if you want to look at it like that. But I don't know if you've been paying attention. There was a new wrinkle that came out today because the governor has proposed some new congressional maps. If you look at the congressional map, it eliminates 2 minority access seats in the state of Florida. One is in the northern part of Florida, in Congressional District 5, which Congressman Al Lawson currently occupies that seat up near Tallahassee, Quincy, Jacksonville, that area. And it's another one, and I think down in South Florida. That's on the congressional side. He has not drawn any Senate maps or any House maps that we have seen. He is concerned about helping what goes on in Washington, more so than what goes on in his state. And we need to all be clear. He is not looking at winning the governor's race. He thinks he has that in the bag. He is looking to 2024, and everything he does is geared toward 2024. If he can deliver to people in Washington more Republican seats, less diversity, then he is their darling, if you will. Because the goal of the Republican Party in Washington, clearly, the odds favor on now for them winning the House. I mean, if you look at all the gerrymandering that's going on in Texas, and you look at what's going on in North Carolina, you look at what's going on in Florida, you look at the seats that are possibly going to pick up, they only need a couple of seats to actually take control. It's going to be close, but I'm looking at Indiana and looking at other different states and Illinois, states that Democrats control. And then I look at the states that we lost population, like California, New York, where we don't get any new seats. So if you look at the end of the day, and with those states that control the legislative branches and the governor's mansion, it's more them than us. So they have the right now to actually gerrymander all of these congressional seats, especially the congressional seats for Washington, and pick up more House seats. And at the same time, make many of those Democratic leaning seats more competitive when it comes to Republicans getting in those races. So that is a part of the strategy. And Florida is one of those states that picked up 1 seat. 1 seat. So we already looking at losing 2 seats. And if they pick up 1 seat, it could possibly be a +3 advantage with Republicans coming out of the state of Florida.
Oh, okay, you've put a lot of stuff there for us to unpack, and most of it's negative. So let me just ask you this. I don't have any stats in front of me about voter turnout. The most recent race that we had was a mayoral race for the city of Ocala, and the Democratic voter turnout was dismal. So my opinion is more of our Democratic candidates, including you, would win if we could get more of our Democrats out to vote. And I think if we got all of our registered Democrats out to vote, we could win elections. We wouldn't even have to count on some of the NPAs to come over to our side. What do you think about that?
I would normally agree with that, but the paradigm shift of voter registration has changed. We are behind the Republicans now when it comes to voter registration in the state of Florida. And that just happened this past year. And if you look back to 2020, when we were at the height of the pandemic, And the Biden administration did not want to go out and knock on doors and want to do any of those things.
Right.
That gave the Republicans an advantage to knock on doors, to go out and register people to vote, because we weren't. And they were targeting Hispanic and people in the southern part of the state of Florida. And it paid off on the election. You know, it paid off because Trump won South Florida. And that is amazing. But what we look at, we have still not been given, and you are a club chair. If you look at the state Democratic Party, we still have not started the efforts of educating and registering people to vote in 2022. It is January the 20th. We have not had one voter registration drive here in Alachua County, not a single one.
We have in Marion County, just so you'll know.
But bless Marion County.
And it's all, I'm going to give one person, her name is Bert Perkins, the credit for that. And she was the former president of the Marion County Women's Democratic Party. They had a big event at the MLK celebration at a park here in Ocala. Well, Rodney, I want to give other people a chance to ask questions, but you've given us so much information. My final question, and then I'm going to open it up to everyone else. Do you really equate the voters we get registered to vote to them actually going to the polls? And I have a reason for asking that question.
I think there is voter drop off from people registering and actually casting the ballot. But it depends on the local DECs and the local Democratic parties and how they track, either using whether it's FAN or whatever system that they're using, to make sure that everybody either gets a mail ballot vote and then making sure that that ballot is actually cast. It depends on the resources that you put in to make sure that every new voter that is registered actually vote, because most new voters registered have no clue about how this stuff works. If you don't stay, they think they've done the civic duty by registering, which is good, but the civic duty is actually voting. So if you don't follow the person who's registered, especially these new voters, you're gonna have that drop off. You can encourage them. It may have just been, well, they asked me to do it, so I'm just doing it. But they don't understand the importance of not only registering and voting. That's where the local parties come into play, to make sure that these new voters, first-time voters, understand you need to request a ballot. Now, have you turned that ballot in? Here's how you vote. Here's where you take it. There was a time you could go pick it up. You can't do that anymore. They made it clear that you can't do that anymore. I think if we can get people to understand and we educate them, that particular registration can translate into a vote.
Okay, thank you. I want to open it up for questions from the rest of the membership.
This is Philip Zell. I have a question.
Okay, Philip.
How does the proportion of registered Republicans compare to Democrats? How does that compare? All right, the ratio of Republicans to Democrats registered compared to the ratio of Republican congresspersons to Democratic congresspersons.
Here in the state of Florida, is that what you're
Yes.
asking? Okay.
Yes.
Well, Democrats have outnumbered Republicans for the last 20 years, probably. But we have, in certain particular areas of our state, Republicans who are registered, who actually vote more Republican. But that is not equated to representation based upon where Democrats live or minorities live, because that depends on the people and the party in power at the time when the census data comes and they redraw the lines. Unfortunately, Florida has not been in control of that process in over 20-something years. So for 2 decades, we have actually been, although we've been the more registered Democrats and more Democratic leaning voters in the state of Florida, we were that purple state, if you will. That trend line shifted, and it just shifted this last year. There are more registered Republicans now in the state of Florida than there are Democrats as of last year. And that doesn't equate to a balance of 50-50 of Republican congressional districts in the state of Florida, because the party in power draws those lines. And we all know they don't play fair. They're not going to play fair this year either. So I hope that answers your question, Bill.
Yes, sir, it does. I would like Democratic politicians to get down and dirty with the Republicans, because I think the only way to defeat them is on the battlefield of politics. That is to go nose to nose with them. Democrats tend to be nice people, and they want to play by the rules.
Yeah.
But that's not working, and we're on the verge of losing our democracy, and I'm scared to death about it.
I couldn't disagree with you more. I just gave a keynote speech on January 9th at the Martin Luther King Hall of Fame banquet, and part of the theme I spoke from is these are troubled times for which they're fighting. And the context of my speech came from Dr. King's speech, where he give us the ballot in 1957 in Washington, D.C. And it was a couple of years after the Brown versus Board of Education ruling that gave us the right to, that struck down, segregation and all of that in terms of school. It did everything but gave us a right to vote. And what Dr. King said was that if we had the ballot, we're talking about the Negro at this time, that if we had the ballot, we would not have to beg the government pretty much for anything. And what we have actually done is, you got the right to vote in 1965. But what happened was they put provisions in the act to where it has to be reauthorized every 20 or so years. And it was reauthorized 2 times under Republican presidents, by the way. This particular reauthorization and this particular fight for our democracy, it didn't just begin with Trump. It started in 2013 when Chief Justice Roberts ruled that Provision 3, Article 3 of the Voting Rights Act, which made it clear that these states that had historically discriminated against people of color had to be pre-cleared. He eliminated the pre-clearance provision for states like Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Louisiana, and all these states that have historically discriminated, the 13 southern states, basically. And so what happened after the ruling in 2013, North Carolina was the first state to go on the record for discriminating when it came to any type of voting. And what you found since then, and it actually got worse after Trump and this big lie that he proposed and he told, which was false, that his election was stolen, then you see now we have 19 states that have actually passed 30 restrictive or suppressive laws that make it difficult for people of color, age, poor, and young to vote. And you just witnessed, all of us just witnessed just on yesterday, that we can't even get Democrats to believe that democracy is, democracy on attack. And we saw it coming. We know what Manchin was going to do. We know what Kristen Sinema was going to do. It wasn't any surprise. But yet, back to something I think Phil just said, because we want to be nice, we want to believe in bipartisanship and all those things. They don't know who Mitch McConnell is. Mitch McConnell has never been about bipartisanship. He's about power. And he and others have actually been using the filibuster to their advantage. We changed the rules 160 times since we've had the filibuster. We just changed it 2 weeks ago to deal with the budget. And they don't believe that democracy, voting, is important enough as a Democrat to amend this archaic anti-civil rights bill, piece of policy. This is not in the Constitution. So what we have is, we are in jeopardy right now. Florida, as you know, Senate Bill 90, I talked to you about it earlier. They joined in this too. They were part of this big lie that the election was stolen, but they didn't go as far as Georgia has gone and Texas has gone. Georgia right now is going to be the new ground zero for voter suppression. And I hope the Justice Department can find that that particular law is unconstitutional. But we haven't gone that far in Florida, but they've gone as far as they can, in Georgia.
Rodney,
Why can't we do what the Republicans do? Except they repeat a lie over and over again until people begin to believe it. Why can't we repeat the truth over and over again until people begin to believe it? And the truth is, the Republicans now believe in an authoritarian government. They don't believe in democracy. Why don't we call them on it over and over again and talk about exactly what that means over and over and over again?
Well, Phil, the Republicans, if they don't do anything right, and I must give them credit for this, their messaging, I don't care what it starts out being, everybody says repeatedly. I mean, this critical race theory. And all of a sudden now it became the new buzzwords for everybody. So you're right, we're honest. We don't believe in being dirty. So we tell the truth, but they're not telling the truth. They haven't told the truth in ever. And Trump certainly didn't tell the truth, not one day he was in office, and not one time he opened his mouth. But that's
And it's
okay.
the one who didn't started that.
So
Rodney,
that's how it is.
Rodney, I want to ask you before I recognize Barbara and Jim Carroll. Could you just give us two concrete, positive things, and I'm talking about the group here that's on the screen with us, that we personally could do, or the Marion County Democratic Party could do? Now, we're in Marion. I know you represent a lot of Alachua and part of us, or you want to represent. What is the most positive thing that you think we can do?
Well,
Besides voting, we're all going to vote.
well, the thing is, one, we, in terms of our democracy, we got to play catch up. So we need to start registering people to vote and educating people about how and what to vote for. I hear people, I registered 100 people to vote, but did you educate them on some of the issues that are going on in our country, in our state, in our county? Did you give them anything to take with them other than a card where they registered to vote? An uneducated voter is just like not voting, because they don't know what they're voting for. And if you don't follow up, then they're not going to vote. The other thing is, I think we have to do is, we have to learn that we need to stop cannibalizing Democrats. What I mean by that is, we don't have the resources, number one, to go through these costly primaries for these costly races. We need to sit down and get in a room and decide who all is thinking about running. And we need to say, well, who is the best candidate for us to actually have a chance of winning? And get behind one candidate instead of having these costly primaries that we spend all of our money and we go against these unchallenged Republicans who have 10 or 20 times more money than you have to reach your vote. Those are two things I think if we did those two things, we can position ourselves better in the state of Florida in terms of winning back some of these seats that are winnable.
Okay, let me recognize, I'm not sure whose hand was up first. I'll go with Barbara first, Jim, and then you, okay? Okay, Barbara?
Yeah, as far as the importance of action, I hear, I'm all with you from Iowa. So I wanted to ask Mr. Long about two groups, because I support a lot of groups now. I mean, I'm digging the bottom of the barrel to support groups. And two that I'm more active supporting are Invisible and Move On. I don't know if they're going to have plans for actual actions, but I think it's high time to be looking in those directions. So besides the ACLU and, Act Blue and Emily's List and all these places that I think are just so important, but I think there needs to be more visible action. So what do you think about those two groups, or have you followed some of their new initiatives?
I'm familiar with both of them. And I've had communications with some of them, some of the members who look, especially now chapter here in Gainesville. But I think it takes the big tent that we always claim we have, and we do have. But oftentimes what we end up doing is, because of some of our views, and most of the time, Democratic views are not very far apart, whether you're progressive or whether you're conservative or you're pragmatic in your approach to governance. We all have core democratic principles and values that we support. But what we end up doing is if our candidates don't win or don't proceed, what we do is we suppress our own vote and we don't go back and support the candidate who is a Democrat, who just may not be as progressive as I am, and we don't help them win. And that started back in 2016 with Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. There's no way Donald Trump should have ever beat Hillary Clinton. She's probably the most qualified person ever has run for president in my lifetime, male or female, in my lifetime.
Yeah.
However, what ended up happening was we had the Bernie faction of people. And if some of you were Bernie supporters, I'm not knocking you, I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
What we did was we suppressed our own votes. That particular Democratic primary lasted too long. It went all the way to the convention. And what ended up happening was Bernie got some of the things he wanted in the flag. But yet I knew Bernie supporters who told me straight up, I'm still not going to support it. I'm not going to vote for it. I'm not going back. And I'm saying, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you would prefer this guy over Hillary? And a lot of them were women, young women. I was just totally, Barbara, blown away. Now, what ended up happening, if you look at that suppression, now we suppressed our own vote. Republicans didn't do that. We did that. And Bernie wasn't even a Democrat. So if you look at that model, if you look at what happened then, we have been doing that ever since. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And that's because we're not tolerant of each other's positions and policies. We're not respected. We have a big tent. I'm supported from people who is extreme progressive to extreme conservative, because my governance model and principle is I'm a pragmatic person. I believe in doing what I think I can accomplish. I have very progressive views and ideas, but I believe in reaching across the aisle. I don't believe in banging and beating people up. I try to sit down and say, well, I can't live with that. You can't live with that. What can you live with? We both serve the same people. How do we get there? Okay, to me, we remember the word compromise. And see, politics is based upon that dirty, dirty word that nobody wants to say, which is compromise. The whole art of politics is built around compromise. A good piece of legislation is a piece of legislation that you can't live with and I can't live with, but we can both tolerate it. And we can both say we won. Both of us can claim victory. So to me, we don't govern like that anymore. It's either crash and burn, my way or the highway. And I think until we get to that point, Barbara, we got to understand, these groups got to understand, my candidate might not win. But if my candidate don't win, am I going to just throw in the towel, don't help the other candidate, and then suppress our vote, don't go back and vote? We should take a page from what happened in 2016. How in the world did Donald Trump become president of the United States? It was because we, Democrats, we caused that.
Okay, I want to recognize Jim.
I also want to just say thank you so much for your presentation at the beginning. You are a very brave person to lay out those points. In the world we live in today, it takes some real guts to put up a presentation like that. It shouldn't, but it was right out there. And so thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Jim, Carol. You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Can't hear you.
First of all, thanks, Rodney, for coming. But of the registrants that have turned the state red, are those mainly new registrants, or are they Democrats that have registered as Republicans, or do you have any idea of who's caused us to go red versus blue?
I haven't seen the new voter registration data, so I can't necessarily answer that specifically with data, but anecdotally, I can pretty much tell you that it's a mixture. It's a mixture of people who come from the South, come from the North, coming down South, and they're moving in these small, they're not moving to metropolitan areas, they're moving in small counties, like Clay County, St. Johns County, and those types of counties, Washington County, Holmes County, where land is cheaper and they can build and buy homes in those areas. A part part of it is places that are actually becoming more metropolitan, like the Villages, which is very little south of where you all are. Anything going from Marion County going south, that is just about all Republican until you get to the I-4 corridor. And they are moving, and that's where the majority of the growth in the state of Florida occurred, in Lake Sumter County going down toward the I-4 corridor. So, and a lot of those, as you very well know, many of those people moved from up north. They came down. So, but then the other phenomenon is two phenomena that's really shocking. Young Black men are registering Republican. Trump got 18% of Black male voters in 2020. And I think he got 12 or 13% in 2016. Now, I know you're probably saying that's impossible, but those are the numbers. That is possible. And it's two reasons. One, some of the sentiment of what happened in 2016, some of Black men didn't want to have Hillary Clinton as president. Part of that's right. But Trump appealed to Black males economically. And he also used Joe Biden's track record of what he did in the 1994 crime bill, where he made 3 strikes out and all those things and the pipeline for prison. And so Trump used that to actually attract Black males and was very, very successful in doing that.
Thank you.
Rodney, let me jump in and say this has been really interesting, and you've taught us a lot.
Yes.
And we are wishing, and we will do everything we can to help you succeed in your race for the Senate district.
Well, Gary, I appreciate that, and I appreciate all of your support. And as I said earlier, visit my website, RodneyLongSenateDistrict8.com. And I think, Lee, can you put that in the chat so people have that? It's on my information. I think all of you received some of my information. My website is on that information that you received. I ask that you go there, look at my views, my ideas. And as Barbara said, I don't have a problem putting my views out. And that's based upon my qualifications and experience. These are things I have passion about. These are things I believe in. And these are things that I believe I can go to Tallahassee and be able to go toe to toe with people like King Perry. So, but it's going to take a person who understands pragmatically how to get things done. I can be progressive. I don't have to wear it on my sleeve. I got to make sure that I understand how the process works. And being a former president of the Florida Association of Counties, I had to deal with 67 counties. A lot of them were small, Republican, urban, rural, and politics didn't matter. It didn't matter whether I was a Republican or a Democrat, because the association, the enemy, we weren't each other's enemy. Our enemy was Tallahassee. So I had to represent, at the time, 67 counties that had almost 17 million people in it. So I spoke on behalf of Republicans and Democrats, small counties, medium counties, and large counties. So I understand what it means to go into these committee rooms and go before senators and go before state agencies to talk about issues that affect people. And that's the approach you have to have. I don't have to tell a person I'm a Democrat. They probably already know that before I arrive. They need to know, what am I coming with? What am I asking for? And how am I going to deliver it? And do I have the abilities and capability of delivering it? And I think that's what I bring to the table, my years of qualifications and experience in public office.
Okay, I see 2 hands, Carol Lee and Amalia, and then Carol Lee.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Long. It's been very interesting and sounds very positive. I'm an old psychiatric nurse, and what I see and hear on the streets is the Republicans are brainwashing all their constituents with the lie, and the more it's repeated, the more they believe it. And then on the news media, Fox channels, Newsmax, One America, all of those are repeating the lie. I feel that the Democrats need to put money into marketing, even if it's billboards or whatever, in order to show this is the lie said here, this is the truth here, and put facts out there, because the people I talk to, they don't talk policy. They don't talk about, oh, I got this money, so now I can do this. It's all about the psychological persuasion. And I really think that would be money well spent on the part of Democrats to rebut every lie somehow, marketing, TV.
You froze up, Amaya. You froze up. Okay. I'm gonna go to Carol Lee while you're frozen. Carol Lee.
I just have a very quick comment, and I'm sure, I don't know whether everybody has heard this or not. But Mitch McConnell's statement today that Black people vote just as much as Americans, and it blew me away that a Republican would say something like this. And you know, I don't know what his response is going to be after he's getting a lot of he's getting everybody upset about this, but I couldn't believe it when I heard that. And what do you think? Thank you very much, Senator Strong. Rodney Strong, I really appreciated your comments.
Crazy.
I think Senator McConnell has forgotten that Blacks are American, and the right to vote and the democracy doesn't necessarily lend to any persuasion or race, gender, or color.
Duh.
He said something even more interesting the other day when he was prefacing why he wasn't going to support and none of the Republicans were going to support the voting rights, the men, the filibuster. And he said something to the effect that if you believe that states are doing things that will prohibit people to vote, then you're insane, basically what he said. And I said to myself, well, obviously he hasn't looked at the 19 states that have actually passed laws already that's making it more difficult for people to actually vote. And obviously he has forgotten that the reason that they're doing it is because this lie that has actually been said over and over and over again. And as Barbara and as I think Amalia said, people, you hear something so much, I guess you can't believe it. If we believe anything that Mitch McConnell says, then we all need to have our head examined, because all he does is does things to make sure that he actually retains power. Mitch McConnell, believe it or not, is still governing the country in the minority. Now, how in the world, a country that's predicated on majority rule, you allow the party that's in the minority to still dictate the agenda? And what he has been able to successfully do is to put in check two of our Democrats that will actually believe in some of the things that he's selling. For example, we shouldn't get rid of the filibuster because a majority of parties shouldn't change that. Well, we've done it 106 times. We've done that. And you have our senators, two Democratic senators that believe in that same lie. So I don't believe anything Mitch McConnell says. I think his name that they've given him, the Grim Reaper, is one that fits him well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Sorry, guys. If we have no more questions, then I'm going to say thank you so much, Rodney. And I'll encourage everybody to go to his website to learn more about his issues and what he wants to do if he gets elected. And thank you very much. Let's give Rodney a big hand.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rodney.
And also when you visit the website, you can make a donation to my campaign. I just wanted to make sure I let
Yes,
you know
sir.
that as well.
Yes, sir. We know. We understand it. Okay.
Thank you very, very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Thank you, Rodney.
Bye-bye.
We'll be in
Bye.
touch. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hey.
All right, guys. I have a couple of things I need to cover.
Thank you, Mr. Long.
Thank you.
We do have a quorum. Well, first, the treasurer's report. And Gary, would you like to talk, or do you want me to just go ahead and say what we got here?
I'll let you go ahead and do that. I did get one more check is slipped into my cubby this evening after the most recent message I sent to you earlier. So add $5.
Okay, so right now we have $485 of available funds in our bank account, where there's actually an additional 250 because we donated that to the Marion County DEC, but they haven't cashed a check yet. But what we have that have access to is $485. We now have 47 paid up members, Gary.
Yep.
Okay, so in our club, we actually have 47 paid members, which is a good thing. We have many, many people, guys, affiliated with the club. Gary, we actually have how many people are on our Google groups?
178, I think, is the current count of unique email addresses that get that we're sending to via Google Groups.
Okay, now I want to make sure I'm clear about this. We do have people in our Google groups who live outside our community. They're friends. I would call them friends of the Oak Run Democratic Club. You know, we have some activists like Marianne Lambert in the Marion County Democratic Party. So some of those names cannot legitimately join our club, but they can visit with us. They can give presentations to us and things like that. So
Yeah, that's a dozen perhaps of the 170.
Right. So I will say this to my board members are here on I think I only have one board member absent right now. The board and I have got some work to do, and the board and I will take that offline and discuss it later. In terms of trying to get more activity from some of our associates and our members. I want to quickly answer a question that Philip asked. Philip, I don't have the numbers with me right now, the exact numbers, but I will give you this bit of information. Within Oak Run, we are outnumbered 2-1 by Republicans. I don't have the exact numbers. It could be like 2,000 of them and 1,000 of us, but I can get you those numbers if you want them. I just wanted to say that because you're kind of new to the area and haven't been with our group a lot.
Those numbers don't surprise me. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And plus, in case you didn't already know, you've moved to one of the reddest counties in Florida. Just so you'll know. But
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
Democrats.
Our neighbors, we're surrounded by Republican neighbors, but they're pretty nice. They're all nice.
Of course. When we first moved here, everybody who approached us was so sweet and nice, and of course they're all Republicans.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Say that, Amalia. Don't talk. Oh, pardon me. Okay. Oh yeah. Don't talk politics. Yeah, don't do that. Okay.
Okay.
Let me also point out to anybody who doesn't realize it, this meeting has been recorded, and Gary will send out a link to the meeting in case you wanted to get some facts you didn't see or hear, or you wanted to look at it again. And we're using that as the minutes of the club right now, rather than submitting written minutes. Amalia, our new, if she gets elected in March, she will be our new secretary. She's our active secretary right now. We'll prepare minutes for me and the other board members to review, and we look over them and see if there are any mistakes, and we make corrections. When and if we can ever meet in person again, we will get back to doing it in the more traditional way, where the minutes are presented to club members, and if people see an error, they will correct it. But we're doing it via our video now. We are having board member and officer elections in March, and there are very few of those 170 people, or 160 or 155 people who are actually live in Oak Run and could possibly come to our meetings. You see how many of us are here. We really need people to step up and take responsibility in the club and help us do things. But once again, I'm going to meet probably before my next scheduled board meeting, I'm going to meet with the board members and we're going to have to revisit some activities that I think I might have dropped the ball on one activity that I was supposed to get rolling. And so I need to take care of that. We will continue the Zoom meetings as long as we have to. If we open up to in-person meetings again, we'll be in the Orchid Club ballroom and we'll be following CDC guidelines and any other recommendations that come out. And we will be soliciting member input about when to have in-person meetings again. I think there was something else I wanted to say. We already voted on Amalia, so that's good.
Linda,
Yes.
I think we want to solicit nominations from the audience.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'll make the first one, and she's not here to accept or decline the nomination, but I'll follow up with her, and I would nominate Liz Bennett to be a board member.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I actually emailed her a couple of minutes ago. Have you spoken to her about this?
Have not, but
Okay.
I'm glad to
All right.
do so. I'm glad to do so. I think she'd be a great addition.
Okay.
And anybody else who's on the call right now that wants to nominate themselves or somebody else, now would be the time to do so.
Correct. Okay. Our parliamentarian Jim is with us, and Jim, Carol, I'm going to ask you, is there any reason why in the February meeting we couldn't also get some more nominations?
Yes, well, you can do it all the way up to the March election.
Okay, good. Okay, then what I'm going to do, I'll speak with all the board members about something we might be able to do to maybe get a few more people. I really am. I'm sorry, guys, that we're not meeting in person. I just, Marion County is pretty much on fire right now with Omicron. And, you know, all of us are of a certain age. Some of us are younger than others, some, you know, but we all have to be very careful regardless of whether we've been fully vaccinated and boosted. So that's why we're doing this. And thanks very much to Gary, who's made it all possible that we can actually do this, because I won't do the techie stuff. Yes, Herman.
You might want to mention our guest speaker for our February meeting,
Okay.
Danielle Hawk
Danielle, thank you. Okay. Danielle Hawk.
for
is
Congress.
running- Say that again.
For Congress.
Yes, Danielle Hawk is running for the United States Congress, Florida District 3. I have met this young lady. Hal's met her. Have you met her, Herman?
No, I haven't.
No, okay. And Herman and I are going to have a Zoom meeting with her on February 10th. I believe that's right, Herman?
Yes.
So we can discuss her presentation. This young lady in person is so impressive. I cannot tell you. I'm not really overly excited about her website. Maybe she just doesn't have the resources and the technical people to spiff up her website, but it's not bad, but it's not great either. I don't think it represents her as well. When you meet this gal in person, well, you know who AOC is, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think Danielle is anywhere as far left or liberal as AOC is, but she is a firecracker and she is well spoken. And I think everybody who's on the meeting, I think you understand that until the primaries are over, we are not allowed to endorse any candidate. I hope everybody understands that. Rodney understands it because he's been in politics forever. So we had him as a speaker tonight, which does not constitute an endorsement. And he understands that. And once the primaries are over, then we can go all in. I don't recall now. I got on the Florida State election website and Ballotpedia, and I cannot remember. Let me say this. Danielle has not met her signature obligation yet to be on the ballot, but I'm sure she will. especially if we help her some more. But anyway, that's all I want to say about Danielle. When you see her, if we have to meet in Zoom and she comes, I hope she will come across on the Zoom meeting the way she comes across in person, because she's really good. Is there anything else, Herman?
Not at this time. Well,
Hayes Henson, Yvonne Hayes Henson, have you gotten with her yet?
she's going to be speaking on gerrymandering.
Okay, so
That's
it's
in
confirmed.
March.
In March, okay. And for those who don't know who she is, Yvonne Hayes Henson is in our state house in District 20. And she is a very impressive lady also, and I can't wait to hear her speak. Okay, Gary, is there anything else you can think of I may have forgotten or?
Actually, I'm curious why we can't have outdoor meetings about 4 o'clock. Republicans, they are doing it inside, of course, but they have daytime ones, and I can't figure out why we can't change schedules and just change things to be outside as it warms up. Of course, it's too cold recently, but I just think we gotta get together that way. We've got to be in person more.
I am perfectly willing to have outside meetings, because at this point, I don't know how things could get any worse. And what I mean by that is we have people who just feel like they can't get on Zoom, or they don't want to get on Zoom, or that it wouldn't be as good if they're, and of course it's not as good if we're not in person, but obviously we can't do it when it's too cold, because we'll all freeze to death, Floridians here. And Gary and I and others on the board we thought, where can we go? We thought about Shalom Park. We thought about that other little Liberty Park that's not far from here. But Gary, you went there, and Hal and I went there to Liberty Park, and we didn't think it looked like a good venue, right? I mean, what did you think?
It's nothing special, certainly, but we have also discussed it and agreed at the board level that we're going to be just having a couple of socials again, or meetings that include a social component, and those will be outdoors or almost certainly be outdoors. Details to be worked out, but that'll be a daylight outdoors thing.
I mean, with a speaker, I mean, like even in the parking lot of Palm Grove Gym, there's plenty of space. There's plenty of clubs that use that corner. You can bring your own chair. If people really want to get together, they will bring their own chair.
If our members will come to the Palm Grove parking lot on a good day. Now, Linda, I don't know if you were cold the other day where in that other club we belong to, but I was freezing my rear end off.
Sure, okay. I understand that part, but the flexibility is it's going to be here, or we're going to tell you in the morning or the night before it's going to be a Zoom. It's either or, but the warning is be aware. Obviously, we all watch the weather here because we know if it's going to rain or be cold generally. And if not, you better read your emails the day before. We'll probably know by then if it's on or it's going to be a Zoom.
I want to speak up though. I won't go to one in public. I can't risk it. I have somebody who's 94. If I spread something, it's just, I don't go in any stores. I am still in very lockdown mode. So it's great if you want to do that and add the social, but there will be some people like me who may not.
Got it.
So I'm in the not category. Absolutely.
That's true. Barbara, you're one. Listen, guys. It's not for the lack of trying. The board, we are on a rocky boat here. We have meetings, we talk, we try to figure out what we should do. It's the right thing to do for the club. So I just ask for your patience. We're trying to do the right thing. I personally will sit in the chair out in the parking lot of Palm Grove on a good day. And I would love to do that if we could get a lot of the members to come. Now, our issue, Barbara, there is, under those circumstances, we probably wouldn't be able to record the meeting for people who can't come to the meeting. Although Gary may say, yes, we can. And if he says that, then that's cool. Okay. All right. So, all right. I think that's it. I've decided after I speak with the board members and we pull something together that I want to do, we'll try to see if we can get more people to either volunteer do some nominations for other candidates because we're short a board member, and we've got one of our, but Gary's actually doing double duty as vice president and treasurer, so we need to get some more involvement. But I do thank every one of you for being here. I thought it was let me just ask this. What did you guys think of Rodney?
Yes. Very good.
Good hand. 2 thumbs up. He's a pretty dynamic speaker, isn't he? I had heard him probably a year ago or more down at the Democrat. It had to be more than a year ago because it's before COVID blasted everything, and I won't go in the Democratic headquarters now really for other than maybe 5 minutes or so. That's it. That is if there are people there. Anyway, I heard him speak before, and I was very impressed. Okay, if there is no other business that I need to take care of right now, I'm just going to thank everyone for being here and adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye, guys. Bye, Warren.
Look for an
Bye-bye.
email with a link to on YouTube.
Okay.